Ashton Genty has been hit behind the line of scrimmage more than any player in the National Football League. Yep. So you just gave him the ball in the end zone. Do the math. How's that going to work out?
It's like what I said earlier.
You got hit behind the line of scrimmage. You got tackled in the end zone.
Yeah.
Oh, they're terrible. But the thing is, Brady, you draft offensive linemen before you draft a star running back. Like they went backwards.
In-game live only on SportsGrid.
When I think of the European tour, these are the players I'm thinking of, right? So I understand why that they would be so frustrated by all this, but they also know that there are rules in place that, from a competitive standpoint, that if you're a member of this tour, like, you can't go join a rival tour. Like, there's rules in place, just like in any other business.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
The Green Bay area and the Philadelphia area, you would get on ABC normally.
Yes.
But they didn't have ABC, so they couldn't get it locally.
Yeah, it just, you have to ask the question, like, nobody wants to hear from Bob Iger during the Monday night game when 10 million people are blacked out from watching the game, and you not ask him about when the blackout's going to end.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
The 35 cents, though, for yes on Ohio State.
Yeah.
I like that, Donnie. I think there's value in that right now because we only got, 3 weeks left to go. Then we'll have conference championships. Yeah, the more they keep winning, and they will win, the more that will increase, and that's a pretty good return on an investment there with Kalshi.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
MLB's new TV deal, plus Mark Cuban says the Mavs won't trade Anthony Davis. FOS Today starts now. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today, your look inside the stories that are shaping the business and culture of sports. I'm Baker Machado here at Front Office Sports Studios in New York City, and this podcast is brought to you by Invesco QQQ. Changing the game has always been our game. You can access NASDAQ 100 companies in just one ETF, Invesco Distributors, Inc. Now, coming up on today's show, former Peloton instructor Kendall Toole will tell us about her new app, but let's start with news from Major League Baseball's league meetings in today's main event. Well, coming off a highly rated World Series and a regular season that saw increased attendance and viewership, Major League Baseball formally unveiled their new media deals for the 2026 through 28 seasons. This will see NBC and Netflix join ESPN, TNT, and Fox as broadcast partners. This, as Commissioner Rob Manfred said, the league will cooperate with a new congressional inquiry, all related to the gambling indictments regarding Guardians pitchers Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz. So let's bring in FOS reporter Eric Fisher, who was at those meetings. Eric, great to see you as always. Let's first start with the new TV deals. It really kind of seems like this is a home run for the league.
Yeah, maybe the other metaphor is they really kind of made lemonade out of lemons here, because they really were kind of dealt a bad hand with this opt-out back during spring training by ESPN. And Commissioner Rob Manfred was very clear that it was not his preference to sort of go out mid-cycle like this back out into the market, but was really able to craft together three pretty forward-looking deals that, all have a pretty prominent streaming component, brings back NBC, which has a long history and legacy of baseball, brings in Netflix in a big way, and really dramatically reconstitutes the ESPN deal that I think certainly works better for ESPN themselves, but could work better for the league too.
Yeah, let's talk about those three in particular. Let's start obviously with NBC. Now it seems like with Sunday Night Football and the NBA rights also on Sundays, now adding Major League Baseball, it really feels like NBC is owning Sunday nights. And then for Netflix, do you feel like this sort of fits their mold of eventizing particular things, having the Home Run Derby and the Field of Dreams game?
Yeah, so with respect to NBC, we talked about this with NBC Sports President Rick Cordell a couple months back at Tuned In, and your premise is spot on that they've got this year-round showcase of live sports on a really important night in American television, and baseball is a fundamental part of that now, and so they really are standing shoulder to shoulder with the NFL and the NBA, and they probably are not going to get NFL type numbers, but it's a great showcase for the league on broadcast television. In the case of Netflix, they're coming in even a little bit bigger than I thought that they would be. That we knew that for some time now that they were going to have the home run derby and a season opening game, and when the upcoming season that'll be the Yankees and the Giants. But to get some additional inventory beyond that, most notably the Field of Dreams game next year, it really shows that they would. Yes, it is still a continuation of their event-based strategy, but baseball is a fundamental part of that and bigger again than what we initially thought.
Let's talk the ESPN angle in all of this, because Rob Manfred at ESPN sort of had, some contentious sort of negotiations leading up to all of this about what ESPN would be doing with Major League Baseball, given the fact that they've been a partner for the league for so long. Now they're going to still have some games, albeit a lot smaller inventory, but they're also going to be ingesting MLB.TV, it seems like, into the ESPN app. What do we know about that? And also, what do we sort of know about their deal with the markets that Major League Baseball sort of runs, be it the Rockies, the Mariners, the Padres, those that basically Major League Baseball sort of runs their programming?
Yeah, a lot of this inventory is really designed to serve this new direct-to-consumer product. And yes, there will be games shown on the regular linear networks, but all the things that you mentioned, the half dozen teams and potentially more going forward that are part of the league-based model for local rights, they're going to now be within the ESPN DDC app, ESPN Unlimited as they're calling it. Same thing with the out-of-market package, MLB TV. And it really just enhances the amount of content that is in that product, which is already a lot, of course, but now is even more. So again, this sort of gets back to what I was saying before, that this is something that really ties into what the corporate priority is right now for ESPN and their parent company, Disney.
Let's move to Rob Manfred talking about the congressional investigations, especially involving the Guardians pitchers, Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz. It's basically saying he's going to cooperate with that, but he did sort of also highlight the new changes about prop bets. He seems like they're fine with that being the only sort of changes that they've made on this. Could you explain a little bit more about this?
Yeah, and this is exactly what I asked him about, when had a chance to, that they feel like the corrections that they just announced a couple of weeks ago with the $200 limit on those pitch level prop bets, and then the new ban on parlaying those with other wagers, that really kind of speaks to the issue in place, that is going to serve as a deterrent not only for players to get involved with inappropriate co-conspirators, but limiting the activity of the co-conspirators themselves. So they feel like they're in a really good place. Now, what that means going forward, we're going to have to see, because you could still potentially see a conflict with Congress going forward, where they're asking a lot of questions and are looking for more activity. And the league right now feels like, okay, there was a problem. We've sort of ingested that and we've taken action. And again, that could be the source of some conflict going forward.
Eric, any other things that sort of happened at the meetings that also you found really interesting?
So a couple of things. There's some franchise movement that is beginning to develop that we have reported on, that the Twins are bringing in some pretty significant minority partners to aid the Pohlad family and kind of potentially bring the Twins franchise to the next generation. The Padres are now officially for sale, and Rob Manfred felt pretty good about what the market is going to develop for that franchise as the Seidler family goes through that process. The other thing is just the momentum around the league. There's just a lot of talk and reiteration about, and of course we talked about it here as well, all of that historic level of viewership and interest during the postseason, culminating with the World Series, and sort of using that as a real tailwind going forward. Now, how that, of course, then intersects with the labor negotiations next season, we're going to have to see, and Rob Manfred was pretty tight-lipped about that. But the notion of the momentum around the league and having baseball be at a real sort of high point in its popularity, certainly in recent times, that was really kind of a prevailing theme.
So you've segued perfectly to my next question here. Given the fact that Major League Baseball and owners have to create a new CBA by next year when it expires at the end of December, have you seen any of the owners or the teams sort of What's their philosophy going into this season, knowing that they have to basically have this really contentious negotiation about salary caps, all these other things, and there might be a work stoppage because of that? Has anybody sort of changed their mindset heading into the offseason because of that?
Yeah, right now, the immediate issue is just, particularly for Rob Manfred and other league leaders, is just trying to sort of calm the waters, at least publicly. Now, there's a lot of, backroom conversation that's going to be happening, but this prevailing fear that out there and what's going to happen in 2027 that you're sort of referring to. And right now, the commissioner's response is like, listen, I've worked for the league internally since 1998. And in those 27 years, there has not been a work stoppage. There have been a couple of close calls. We had a delayed start to the 2022 season because of the lockout that off season, another close call in 2002. But he is correct that they've not actually lost any games during the entire time that he's been an in-house league employee in various roles. And he's sort of like, trust me, that's sort of the answer at this point. Now, whether that sort of carries forward, we're going to have to see, because he also at the same time talked about there is a sort of competitive balance problem out there. And again, there's a lot of fans out there that are really kind of concerned about the widening gap between the haves and the have-nots. And he's like, we should, it's our policy to listen to our fans. And so, the rubber's going to meet the road here pretty soon, and it's going to be very interesting to watch.
Eric, in less than 40 seconds that we got with you, what do you think happens with Tarek Skubal this offseason with the Tigers?
So, Tigers themselves have been pretty tight-lipped about that. I think they're going to listen and see if they get blown away with an offer, because it's a really delicate thing. And we talked about this a little bit as well, that, they've got a generational talent, and to sort of let him pass without some massive return coming back, would be a tough message for their fans. So I would say something happens only if they get completely blown away with some, just simply can't turn it down kind of offer.
Eric, thank you. And we have a lot more front office sports today. Headed your way, everyone, right after this break.
Goff and Mahomes were never taken serious. Hurts won't be, even if they're the 1 seed. Jonathan Taylor plays running back. Stop. Mahomes lost the head-to-head to Josh. Can I confidently eliminate every single person booked behind Josh Allen to at least beat out Josh Allen? So I'm in a head-to-head with Stafford May?
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Another sport like the NBA, which is dealing with its own, scandals, so to speak, and its own headlines with the FBI and what else comes, because this is the same FBI team that also brought the NBA scandals to light. So I'd have to imagine they're working on some other stuff as well right now, and the timing is definitely not a coincidence, but definitely some very significant news in the gambling world that now you're not going to be able to bet more than $200 on a specific pitch market.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
Where are the wins coming from? And yes, I agree. Are they good enough to win those games? Yeah, of course they are, right? But the reality of this team is not very good this year in one-score games. They're not. That was their bread and butter a year ago. Like every win last year, one-score game, the Chiefs found a way to win it.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
You need Justin Jefferson on that wall in the playoffs. Like, you got to go get him. He is still the man. I understand the JJ week last. Like, I get it. It was ugly. There were a lot of spots where, where's he throwing that ball to? What's he doing? It'll be fine. Justin Jefferson's far too talented, and McCarthy will continue to figure it out. But it's the target volume you want. He gets double-digit targets every week. He is arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Fantasy sports today. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. And let's talk a little fitness, shall we? As former Peloton instructor Kendall Toole has now launched an all-in-one fitness app called NKO Club. This will combine workouts, recipes, breath work, and so much more. So let's bring in Kendall Toole. Kendall, good to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Baker. I'm so excited to be here.
All right, so before we talk about the app, let's talk about Peloton here for a moment. Tell us a little bit about what it was like leaving Peloton, a place that we became so familiar with you on.
Yeah, I mean, Peloton, that whole chapter was a wonderful part of my life, and I'm really grateful for it and grateful that it got to bring so many people into a community. But I think like anything, you get to a phase in life when you're ready to grow beyond and evolve. And I always had this entrepreneurial itch that I was ready to scratch, and I wanted to pour into my community in even more ways than what I could do while I was there.
Yeah, it's so interesting thinking of Peloton, really blowing up during COVID and introducing us to you and to Cody Rigsby and so many others. Was the plan always to sort of use a thing like a Peloton to grow your brand and then eventually be able to leave from there? Or do creatives like yourself need to go to a place like Peloton anymore?
That's a really great question. I think for me, I was wanting to see the direction that the company wanted to take and what their view and vision of was of health and wellness. And I think their perspective and what they do is wonderful, but it just didn't feel as authentic to me anymore after 5 years. So I don't think the plan was forever it to be just like, hey, let me use this and level up. But I do think that's anything in anyone's career, right? Like we grow through our experiences, and then when we're ready to take on something different and extend ourselves, you got to move on from what you know and get uncomfortable.
I mean, there's still workouts for you on there. Like, what do you think about that? Are you okay with that?
Listen, they own them. I don't own them. So they are more than welcome. And it makes me happy if I'm still able to help support and empower people in fitness, whether I own the content or not. It just makes me happy people are moving and hopefully finding a little power within themselves.
Well, I hope you're getting tons of royalties from that, by the way.
No, but it's okay. So maybe that's part of wanting to build something too that I can own and create and then level up in new ways and bring other people into the fold of my community and then be the platform for them. I think that would be a goal in the future, is to help expose other people to other talent.
So let's talk about that. What did you sort of learn from Peloton that you're sort of now bringing into this next, as you mentioned, entrepreneurial wave that you're hitting now with NKO Club?
Yeah, I think it was a great experience to watch a company go from not relatively small, but really explode during COVID and get all this public attention, and also the responsibility of being a publicly traded company and what that means. So I have a lot of people don't know this. I have a background in film and TV. I went to film school. I PA'd on so many film sets. I've been the gopher. I've seen it from both sides. So it's really exciting for me to be able to step into the creative perspective, both from a creative directive perspective. I'm shooting everything myself. I have a great editor, but it's a very lean machine here. So I learned a lot of what worked very well in my time at Peloton. I respect that they had a lot more funding and money to create the level that they did. But I also took a lot of hints and said, hey, you know what? Things can be done a little scrappier. And I want to do something in a way that makes sense for my community and feels a little bit more intimate.
Obviously, let's talk about what you're bringing with you into this new realm, because everybody knows you for mental health. You talked about that a lot during your rides as well. So what are you sort of bringing into the next phase of all of these new videos and all these new things that are going to be part of NKO? I know mental health is obviously going to be a part of it. I mentioned recipes. So what are you sort of bringing to the table here for people?
Yeah, I wanted to be a more holistic 360 wellness experience. I think it's wonderful to teach cycling. It's wonderful to teach shadow boxing. But I also, my bread and butter were growing up in a boxing gym with a heavy bag, and also strength training, Pilates, other ways of movement so we can have every layer of ourselves. Not everything needs to be so intense. We all know I'm intense. That's for certain. But I wanted to find a place and create something where you could have balance and to really lean into the mental health front. I received a breathwork certification this last year that opened my eyes, actually opened my nose to the importance of nasal breathing and oxygenating my frontal lobe and how that can be so helpful in health and wellness. And so I wanted to create the mental side as well, mental fitness, making that a part of our day-to-day, and then providing recipes that didn't feel too forceful. It didn't feel like macro tracking and brought in shame. It was more curious.
Let's get back to the mental health part here, because as I mentioned, you were really infamous for talking about mental health, especially on rides. Why did you really want to do that?
I felt as if I was going through the world with a mask. I had this wonderful platform and I was reaching all of these people, and I was performing in a way. There was a whole other side to what was going on in my life and what I've battled and struggled with anxiety and depression, that it felt like I was doing a disservice to these people that were looking up to me and not sharing really the other side of the story, which I think is the more interesting side. So it was an opportunity to level and to connect to others on a way that hopefully would be helpful to them. And it was COVID, so I think we all were feeling it. And I just blurted it on Instagram Live one day and then recognized that was connecting to people. So it's been beautiful and healing to be able to say, hey, I'm someone that deals with this day to day, and here's my highs and my lows. And mental health doesn't discriminate. So if I can help someone else in another part of the world feel seen or feel connected or go and find resources to get help, I think that's really the point of the privilege of having a platform in a community like this.
So in this phase with NKO, are you hoping your fans and your following from Peloton moves over with you, or are you thinking, this is another version of me and I'm building basically from the ground up here?
I think it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of a hybrid. I'd love for this to be an and. This doesn't need to be an or. By no means am I going up against a multi-billion-dollar company and able to do what they do at the level that they do. But I do want to create a space for those who really felt connected to me from Peloton to say, hey, I'm back. We can move in new ways. And also hopefully to reach more people. I'd love to kind of be big sis to Gen Z. I think they're going through a lot. I really feel for them and the pressures of being online and having to live up to those standards.
Are you hoping other fitness creators will come join you on this journey as well? And are there features in this app that you're the most excited about?
What I want to do is show what fitness and wellness looks like at different ages, at different stages. And I want to also be a platform for others to discover talent in fitness and wellness. It's ironic that industry, I think, is secretly very competitive behind the scenes. And there's a lot of animosity, unfortunately, and something that should be about empowering others. And I want to invert that and flip it on its head. So I look forward to, in the future, welcoming more talent, giving them a space to be themselves, to promote what they do, and to share that with my community. And then also, as time goes on, I think there's a lot of point for expansion in other ways. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we can't wait to see the growth that's all going to be happening for you. And obviously, everybody can download the app. It's available now. It's NKO Club. Kendall Toole, such a pleasure to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us, and congratulations.
Thank you so much. Have a great one, and let me know. I look forward to it. We'll put you through some workouts and have a good time.
Please, if you need a sassy cameo for me, I will join anytime.
I live for a sassy cameo. Yell at me, mad at me, say I suck. It's kind of my love language. I'm into it.
Love that. Kendall, thank you so much. And don't go anywhere, everyone. We have more Front Office Sports Today coming up right after this quick break.
Let's play our game of buy or sell. It has been a season to remember for Drake May. As of right now, May and Matthew Stafford are the favorites to win the NFL's MVP. Who had that at the beginning of the year? You probably could go through 20 quarterbacks before you got to Drake May as predicting winning the MVP. After this season, buy or sell, we will think of Drake May as the best quarterback in the 2024 draft class. Is this buy or sell? He certainly wasn't going in.
All right, for those who don't know, we're talking May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix. A lot of interest there, right? A lot of interest there as far as those QBs. He's going to be the best. I mean, this is a question I would normally just take the field, right? Because I'll assume that Jaden Daniels has been really good. While he's hurt now. Caleb Williams is getting better and better. I'm still not giving up hope on the other three here as far as Penix, McCarthy, and Nix, although I would certainly have May well above them. So I think for me, it's either Daniels, it's either, Williams, it's either May. Isn't this recency bias? Last year we would have, it's Daniels. By far, it's Daniels. Now because he's hurt, hasn't had a good year, it's Drake May. I'll sell this just for the sake of it, Craig, here, but I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah, I'm going to sell. I got Jaden Daniels still. I can't go this far with Drake May. Maybe second best, but it's not even about taking the field. We're having recency bias here. Jaden Daniels, to me, will still be awesome. So next year for Daniels goes back ahead of Drake May.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday, starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. I'm Baker Machado, and this podcast is brought to you by Invesco QQQ. In football, changing the game begins with rethinking it, like rethinking how players work on their game. And with wearable technology, advanced analytics, AI, and more, that same innovative thinking that changes the game could also change your portfolio. And Invesco QQQ gives you access to the innovators who are rethinking the world, so let's rethink possibility. All right, let's get you caught up on some of the other stories we're following over at the FOS Water Cooler. And joining me now is our Front Office Sports Editor-in-Chief, Dan Roberts. Dan, good to see you as always. And let's start with Mark Cuban, who has now entered back into the Mavericks chat, the team's minority owner, who thought, by the way, he was going to be running basketball operations when he sold his majority stake to Patrick Dumont a few years ago. Now confirming to The Athletic that he is, in fact, advising the team. And by the way, even said that the 4-win Mavericks would, quote, not trade Anthony Davis because we want to try to win. What do you sort of make about Cuban sort of becoming the PR face of the Mavericks front office now?
Re-entering the chat is exactly right, because it was only last week that an ESPN story about Nico and the ouster of Nico and the Luka trade described this exact situation. So got to give them credit. They said that Cuban has sort of been returning back to the fold and that he has repaired his relationship with Dumont after everything that happened with the Luka trade, because we know that when the Luka trade happened, Cuban told us in particular that he didn't find out about it until it was publicly announced. Right. So he was very much on the outside at that time. Now this ESPN story last week said he was returning to the inside, and Cuban told us, I don't know who made that up. Well, clearly not so made up, because now he is calling himself an advisor. Really interesting to see him use that word. And then, look, I really think the larger story here is he's actually publicly commenting on the team's player moves. And you would hope and think that someone with 27% of the team would be involved and would have the majority owner's ear, but clearly for some period of time after the Luka trade, that wasn't the case. So Cuban returns to the chat. I think it's probably for the best for the team, and he still in some ways is the face of the team. I mean, all due respect to Patrick Dumont, but I think if you asked a casual NBA fan who's not a Mavs fan,
they think he's probably still there.
They would say, you'd say, who's the owner of the Mavs? And they'd probably still say Mark Cuban. Or at least who's the public face of the Mavs. So in some ways, I see this as restoring, what should be the case. But good to have his voice out there. And by the way, he says, the reason he gives for not trading ideas, he says, we want to win.
Well, let's get to that, because there's been this whole thesis of the window now of opportunity for the Mavericks to win is now predicated on Kyrie Irving and Anthony Davis, and how long they'd be able to play, not so much on investing behind your rookie Cooper Flag. Is that, in fact, a mistake then for the Mavericks to sort of say, we're not going to blow this up and retool around Cooper Flag, and you have this asset that you probably would only get 50 cents on the dollar for anyway?
Right, and meanwhile, Flag looking pretty good, right?
Yeah.
But look, I am not...
4 wins. They have 4 wins right now.
Yeah, and there are teams with only 1 win.
Yeah.
So, I'm not a basketball personnel guy. I will say, there are cases of both, right? There are cases where you blow up the team and you trade everyone except the 1 star and you rebuild, and that works, but you got to have patience for that. You got to have the timeline. And then it's like you stick with the established stars. Kyrie has had his injuries, and then Anthony Davis, hit or miss.
Right.
I'm not a huge AD fan. But you don't know what's going to happen. 4 wins. This is a weird season, by the way, because I would encourage everyone to read Colin Salau's recent coverage. Nearly half the league is injured. Still the biggest stars are these guys who are very much aging, and many of them are injured. So I don't know how this is going to shake out, and we're probably going to see it have an effect on ratings.
Yeah, and you have Steve Kerr saying the schedule and the pace of play.
There's something there. There's something there with injuries increasing.
Yes.
Right?
By the way, let's switch gears and let's talk about this wild story in the Wall Street Journal. The NFL confirming to the Wall Street Journal that they're quietly monitoring the technological advances by American company Boom Supersonic and other countries, all for future supersonic passenger flights that would fly even faster than a traditional airline flight. You could cut travel time in half here, which has now allowed many to speculate, does now the NFL have a team in Europe or in Asia or in Australia if they're allowed to have this technology, if this technology advances?
Well, so there's a few things here. One, first of all, it's going to be years. It's going to be years,
29
right?
is when they're thinking it might be available.
And I'm talking about mass availability, because it's one thing for the teams. Well, what about me? Because it's great to get the teams over there, but what about fans? What about personnel? This is not so simple necessarily. Now, the league has already dramatically accelerated its rate of international games.
They want 16.
Yeah, our own David Rumsey has been all over this. The number of games being played abroad increases every year. Goodell already said we're going to do more. They're in Spain. They're in Berlin. Now there's going to be a college game, abroad, right? So everyone is doing this. The NFL is eating the world. Remember when Mark Andreessen said software is eating the world? In our world, the business of sports world, the NFL is eating the world. I think the NFL wants to be the International Football League, right? So change that first letter. And could they have a team actually based there? Why not? Maybe you start in England. That makes a lot more sense to me than one of these other cities. But they don't need to have a team actually rooted there to make every team play a game or even two there. And let's also remember, and it was our own Mike McCarthy who had this scoop over a year ago, what they're really about to do is break off those international games into yet another media package.
Dan, thank you so much, and thank you at home for watching. We'll be back with more Front Office Sports Today tomorrow.